All right, we are live with another instant reaction podcast. Of course, this podcast and all of our podcasts are brought to you by Prize Picks, which is the official daily fantasy sports app of CLNS Media. Download the app today, put in the promo code CLNS, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. All right, Matt. Patriots last picked at 110. At 180, they did something they haven't done all weekend. And that is drafted defensive player Marcellas Dial from South Carolina. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, this guy a little bit down the board, but I'm not upset about it. He was listed actually on ESPN when they pulled it as a safety. So I don't know what position they envision him playing. He's fast. He's a little bit on the light side, and he started at, I think, Georgia Military Institute. He had issues with his grades in high school, and it sounds like he had some maturity issues to work through. But by the time he got to South Carolina, he did well. So I was in college for 5 years, spent the last 3 years at South Carolina. He started like almost every game there. Was a really solid player for them. Defended a lot of passes. Didn't have a pick this past season, but he gets his hands on balls. And as a developmental corner, I like this. As a possible safety convert, I like this.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Led South Carolina the last 2 years in pass defenses. Led them last year, or I guess 2022, in interceptions, only with 3, but still led the team in interceptions. Had 15 pass deflections in 2022, 10 last year. And look, he's not the biggest guy. 4.46 speed's pretty solid, right? 40.5-inch vertical, but you look at the short shuttle and the 3-cone, and you're like, ooh, I don't love those, right? And as you mentioned, he's kind of a smaller guy, but he also did 16 reps on the bench, so he's not, he's
willing to be physical and he's strong. He's just undersized.
Exactly. So he's got a little bit of strength to him. He did play some nickel and some safety in 2022 and was only played outside corner last year. So, I wonder, and again, ESPN puts him in. That doesn't mean ESPN doesn't mean anything. Just because ESPN put him into something, who knows? But I wonder if the Patriots are looking at him as a guy that could play a deep safety role. Because I think the biggest knock on him, right? And we talked about this, right? 40.5-inch vert, 10.9 broad jump, but then his short shuttle and his 3-cone throw doesn't look great. That, to me, is indicative of a guy with a little bit of stiff hips. You can't play corner in the NFL with stiff hips, right?
Stiff-hipped, that's the first 2 words in the weaknesses category on the beast.
Yeah, not great. Not great. And so that's the thing, is that if that's the case, you're probably looking at a guy that, you could survive at free safety that way. You can't survive at outside corner that way. And so there's a possibility they look at him as a guy that can play outside, that can play deep safety for them.
Yeah. They mentioned that he's also good for a potential zone scheme, just because he's a lengthier guy. He's got nice long arms, and he's got the speed, and he seems to have good instincts. He just seems it seems like he's inconsistent. He's a late bloomer all around, and he has a ton of college experience with 38 games played at South Carolina, 29 starts. And they started 22 games the last 2 seasons. Led the team in passes defended the last 2 years. He's been doing a ton for the Gamecocks, but it seems like he just came along late in the process. So I like this, and then that you're betting on a guy who's a late bloomer being able to continue that development and become part of your secondary. And if you think he can be an asset somewhere along the perimeter for you of the defense, whether that's a free safety or an outside corner, I think they need depth at either one of those spots. Which is good. And, we've talked about it on here a bunch of times. You want to get on the roster, play special teams. This dude's fast, physical, willing to hit people. It's a way to get yourself on the roster and allow yourself to continue to be developed and get those opportunities.
That's correct. Yep, that's correct. And so, to me, I look at it and think, okay, let's see. He's a guy that, he's rated on the Beast as a 7th rounder or priority free agent guy. I think that's kind of where, at this part of the draft, the Patriots are looking at it. They didn't move up for anyone. So, you have that 110 to 180 gap. That's a huge gap. To not move up for anyone in that area, I think was indicative, for me at least, was indicative of, we don't really love any of these guys. We're certainly not going to give up any future assets to go get one of these guys. And so, like one of the names that comes to me is like a Jalen Simpson, who I really like. Jalen Simpson, who could play free safety for you, right? If you want to stick on the offensive side of the ball, I talked about Tyrone Tracy. He went in the 160s. So, like, could you have gone up and gotten one of those guys? Theoretically, you might have been able to, but they didn't want to. And so they're sitting here, and I wonder if it's hey, let's take some shots at the dartboard. Let's try to look at some guys that we like. They don't love, but we like, and they can come in and compete for a spot. And I think that's, it's probably what they did here. And, Dial's got some work to do. Certainly has some work to do, but I think, he projects as a guy that can do the types of things that they're looking for. And again, in the 6th round, what the heck, take a shot at it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's been talk for a while now too that because this is, I think the last or the second to last of the COVID classes, you have a lot of much older prospects than you typically would, and a lot of teams just didn't think the depth was there. They talk about how, especially once you get to like, I don't know, pick 150 or even 120, the depth really starts to fall off. The board flattens out, and that you can get all over the place with who gets picked where. And I think in some ways that started almost in the 60s, the maybe end of the 50s this year with the way the offensive lineman got drafted. And it's just like this guy's like you said, graded as a 7th rounder, priority free agent by a lot of people. And that's not a reach at 180 because of how this is scheme fit. And I think this isn't who I necessarily would have taken for this role, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong pick. Like I still like MJ Devonshire. I think he's still on the board. From Pitt, I liked him a lot in that role. I think there were other corners, but they might like the possibility of, like a convert here from corner to free safety.
Yeah, and again,
none of the safeties left are free safeties. By the way, they're all strong safety types.
That's the biggest part of it, right? Is that he doesn't have a ton of experience playing safety, but he has a little bit of experience playing safety. And so you wonder, okay, well, can we try him out at safety and just see what happens, right? And, and see if he can play that deep safety role. And it's on the board right now. Like, I love Tanner McLaughlin. I don't think they're going to take a look at him. Because to me, he's got the medical history. The Patriots are.
He's old. He's even by
he's super old. Yeah, he's almost 25.
Yeah, by the standards of this draft class, he's old, which
is a lot. So, but I just think when you start to look at what's on the board, you start to wonder, like, okay, what's there? Could they take a guy like Dylan Lowby? Could they take, so you can kind of go back and forth.
Jaheim Bell is still on the board.
And Jaheim Bell's still on the board. So, like, that's another guy they could target. So,
do you know there are guys still on the board?
Johnny Wilson went 185 to Philadelphia.
Hey, he's following in the shoes of Harold Carmichael there.
I know, right? Well, and I think one of the things about Johnny Wilson is that, teams just looked at him and just like, well, what do we do with him? Is he a tight end? Is he a wide receiver? Like, where does he go? And I think so 185, you're like, whatever. I almost thought for the Patriots, like, just take a shot. Now they have a decent amount of wide receivers, so you wonder, like, is it worth taking a shot on a guy like that? But whatever, like, take a shot and just see what happens. And so I think, that's an intriguing pick for Philly. But at this point in the draft, you're trying to fill spots, and safety is a spot that the Patriots needed filled. And even if they wanted to play corner is a spot that is a sneaky area of need as well. So regardless of whether he's going to play safety or corner, you fill a spot that you needed to fill.
New England they announced it on social media just as defensive back. So yeah, I think they're still unsure. Also, if the Patriots are at the point where they don't love what's available in this draft, which, I think there's still guys that I like on the board, but, Joshua Carty, Will Reichard, the two top kickers on the board, still around. Right. Their next pick is 193. Really, really would not be surprised if they take a kicker there with the current kicker room, and if they just don't like the rest of this board. And also, if they don't do it there, 231. I think both of those are potential kicker spots.
I would agree. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, we'll be back in about 4 picks. We'll be back very quickly when the Patriots pick again at 193. But here, Marcellas Dial is the pick at pick 180. defensive back from South Carolina. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back in a few minutes.